I used OpenAI's new O3 Mini High model to create a tool that automatically edits my entire video without writing a single line of code. Since this was a test of the new model, I let it handle everything from start to finish. But breaking it down, the process really came down to four main tasks. The first task was starting by asking the LLM to create a Python script that processes videos in a local folder named raw. The script would cut out the silences in the video, leaving a small margin to avoid cutting sound waves. It should also use AI to analyze the video and determine where to make the cuts. I wasn't really sure what to expect, so guessed that just starting would lead to something interesting. The model GPT-3o Mini suggested a method where each video segment would be sent to the LLM, which would then decide whether to keep it or discard it. The final output would be a compilation of approved segments. The second step was fixing outdated code. This took about 5 prompts to get it done, since it kept using OpenAI Whisper API code that was deprecated. For this step, I had to give it some help so that it could provide me the correct code. The third task was adding logs for debugging to track each step and pinpoint where fixes were needed. This just made it easier to track exactly what was happening during the execution. And finally, I had an idea of how it should work. The model was analyzing each segment separately, meaning that it had no context to detect duplicates or inconsistencies. So what if I sent an entire structured JSON, expecting to get it back only with the corrected segments? And like I said, I didn't know exactly how it would produce what I wanted. All I knew is that I wanted this. This is a sample video. This is just a raw video of me reading a script. This video I've reached, in my previous video, I've reached many comments. In my previous video, I've received... See, like multiple times I try to say something and then they are duplicates. And I want the AI, or like I want a code that just eliminates these duplicates and gets only the last one, because the last take is actually the one that's going to be used. And yeah, this raw video has 42 seconds. It's inside the raw folder up there. Ideally, it should go down to like 20 seconds or so. This was my entire conversation, so I started off pretty generic. Soon enough, I noticed that there was something going wrong simply because the segments were too big. Or either they were too big or they were like skipping parts where I was actually talking. So that isn't really ideal. And I identified that this was like this part of the code was just bad. It could use better libraries to do this process. So then instead of me telling it which library to use, I kind of described the problem. I wanted to put myself in the position of someone that never coded before and wouldn't understand like that this was a bad code, but they had the sense that it wasn't ideal, like that what was being created wasn't ideal. Yeah, and eventually I needed it to log things. So I said this. Also, a final JSON should be generated with all text that were removed, along with the start and finish time of it. Debugging is a process that I believe like no coders, like people that don't code, wouldn't get to this step. And it's really like how you understand each process. Yeah, and I won't bore you guys with each and every single prompt I created. It's just important to show that at this point right here, it gave me the complete code. But from this beyond, like I just started focusing on specific functions. Since I knew like, because of the debugging, because I had these 3 JSON, I would understand like which function is producing the wrong results. And then I could focus only on those particular functions. And when you focus like that, it seems like the AI just responds better since it only has to work in that specific area. So yeah, let me get to it and show you guys the actual code. Let's get down to the main process. The main process starts off the process video function, which is this one. Then it will load the audio and detect the segments based on sound levels. If I get to that part, you'll see this specific variable. And what is this? This is kind of placing a margin, or rather a padding at the end of the audio, because this ensures that it doesn't just cut the audio right between something that's being said. I'm placing half a second. So every time it identifies the end of that audio, it will cut only half a second beyond that audio. Now in step 3, we go through each segment and transcribe it using Whisper from OpenAI. This is plain simple, just using the OpenAI API for Whisper. Then the 4th step is getting that entire transcription, sending it over to the LLM to get a suggestion of what would be the ideal transcription. Let me execute this for you guys to get a better idea of how this works. So again, the video I'm using is 42 seconds long, and there's like a lot of parts. Like here is where I start talking. In my previous video, I've reached right? So I get that wrong, and then I say it again, and then I say it. I've reached probably many again comments in my previous video, and I say it kind of 3 times, and this is where it's transcribed. So this is like the raw segments, right? This is the first part where you didn't send to an LLM yet, you didn't send to Whisper, you didn't do anything. And then it did the part where it sends to Whisper. So it got the text in my previous video. And this is all wrong. This is exactly like how the raw segments are. And then you send exactly this over to the LLM to get a suggestion of how it should be made. So you see that it cut it off those 3 first segments where I just repeated myself. And it got, in my previous video, I've received, yeah, it got that. Then it got this. You notice that down here, I repeat, crawling systematically discovers, like I repeat this twice. It identified that that was repeated and removed it. And then all it does is identify these remaining objects, merge it together, and produce this. In my previous video, I've received many comments asking why use an LLM to scrape if we can just use normal Selenium, Beautiful Soup, or Puppeteer. So let's settle that right here from the start. Crawling systematically discovers and navigates web pages. Scraping, you'll also notice that because of these segmentations, this phrase and this is supposed to be like the same phrase, but I gave some spacing between when I say one and the other. You'll notice that here from page, like extract specific data from pages. See, like it was kind of like 1.5 seconds, but it already identified that it was far from each other. And so because it identified that in the end here of the results, we get scraping extracts specific data from pages. There is kind of a second there, but just this unique cut, and we could toggle this. We could go over to the detect segments and just lower this value so it has like a lower silence time. I really enjoyed this result, but I didn't try to create this on 4.0 or nor in DeepSeek. So if any of you really try to create the same project in another LLM, please let me know in the comments, because the only other LLM I tried to create this in was 3.5 Turbo, and it really didn't succeed in doing that. Let's just pause right there. I'm editing the video right now, and I thought to myself, well, the best way to show performance of this is actually using it in an actual project. So the raw footage of this OpenAI's new is kind of embarrassing. O3 mini high model to create. It had like 28 minutes, a tool that automatically edits my entire video without writing a single line of code. Yeah, this part I was just voicing over my scripts. So let's run Python main and see what it gets. Okay, this took a while, but I noticed that it went from 28 minutes all the way down to 8 minutes and 29. I'll probably have to edit something out, but yeah, let's take a look at what only running this code got me. And I didn't have to write a single line of code to do this. Since this was a test of the new model, I did speed it up, okay? It's not in this actual speed, it's just for us to check this faster. Let it handle everything from start to finish. But breaking it down, the process really came down to 4 main tasks. The first task was starting by asking the LLM to create a Python script that processes videos in a local folder named raw. The script would cut out the silence. Wow, okay, I enjoy this. It's really like how you understand each process. So the final code, I won't go through each single prompt here, but yeah, at the end, like I explained in the animation. Wow, okay, I enjoyed this. You guys will probably see something really close to this result because yeah, I'll probably remove something that might be wrong, but yeah, this was an actual production level test. So that's it for this video. Leave a like if you really enjoyed it, if it helped you in any way, and consider subscribing for more videos like this. See you in the next video. Till then.